people in our age group are actually more apt to have an affair or be tempted by infidelity than any other group. 1/3 of people over 50 are having an affair. Thank you so much for joining us again on Second Act TV. Today, I am so happy to welcome back Dr. Ramon Presson, licensed family and marriage therapist and author of dozens of books, including the one sitting behind me here, When Will My Life Not Suck? And the co-author of 3 different titles with Dr. Gary Chapman, the author of The 5 Love Languages. Raymond, thank you for being here again with us.
Thank you for the invitation. We're going to be on a pretty serious subject today. We've done some lighter topics in the past. This one's going to be heavy.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And it's the main purpose, I think, of your, what you do. You're a marriage and family therapist. And the number one thing I would think, or certainly one of the top things you deal with, is infidelity. And the reason we're talking about that today, or why I want to talk with you, why this came up, is because I came across some research, as I usually do, but I was just shocked by this article that said that 1/3 of people over 50 are having an affair. That people in our age group are actually more apt to have an affair or be tempted by infidelity than any other group. Have you heard that? Do you agree with that on any level?
Yeah, that was a new stat for me, and my reaction was I wasn't shocked, but I was disappointed, and that's disturbing. One of the reasons that I'm not shocked, one is the correlation to what we call the graying of divorce.
Mm-hmm.
If one of the causes or one of the symptoms or one of the contributors to infidelity is a drifting or dissatisfied partners, those partners are more susceptible to infidelity. I mean, frankly, I found very, very few people who went looking. Most would say, I never imagined it would go this far. I never intended for it to go this far.
Well, whether or not the stats are completely accurate or not, there is a large chunk, even if it's half accurate. There's a large chunk that this is something that definitely is affecting our age group. And as such, if you're either in that situation, if perhaps you're in marriage counseling for that right now, maybe you're having an affair, maybe you think your spouse is having an affair, you mentioned in your writing and in your practice betrayal trauma, that really what happens is not even so much the sexual act, if you will, but how it affects trust, by being betrayed per se, that there's a real trauma associated with that. That's the challenge to really overcome.
Right, because you can deceive someone and not necessarily betray them. You can't have an affair. You can't betray someone without deception because you have to hide it. So there's a two-headed monster that's happening when affair is exposed. Is there's the hurt, the sense of betrayal from you being my spouse being, or my boyfriend, girlfriend being physically and or emotionally intimate with someone else. It's playing with my head and heart, and that you've been lying to me. And so now I don't know what to believe. I say, and this is true regarding when I'm working with someone in grief recovery after a death, there is a loss and you feel lost. When someone has been cheated on, when there's been an exposed affair, you feel a loss, you feel trauma, but you also feel lost because your sense of what you thought was real and what you thought was true and what you thought you could count on, it's like you realize, okay, I've been living in a parallel universe and not a true one. So one of the things that happens is, in addition to the person struggling to, can I trust my partner again? They're struggling with trusting themselves, trusting that I am able to read the signals. There's a level of self-doubt, not just, your self-esteem is shot to hell when there's an affair, but your confidence in being able to interpret and assess what was going on. And so you go, well, how will I know in the future? How can I feel really secure?
Yeah, you say that the only way to really get past an affair is to rebuild trust and forgiveness. That can be a tall order.
Forgiveness, and here's my definition of forgiveness. I am releasing the right and the need to retaliate or punish. Forgiveness doesn't mean I'm not angry, that I'm not hurt, that I'm not still struggling with trust. Forgiveness is from what you can only forgive what's happened. So forgiveness is from here backwards. Trust is from here forwards. So forgiveness doesn't mean amnesia. What it means at its core is I am releasing the right and the need to retaliate. Retaliate is usually immediate. I retaliate, when your brother or sister, your two brothers, or,
Right.
One punches the other one. You retaliate is usually immediate. Punishment is delayed and or ongoing. The person who had the affair, it's gonna test their patience, because they're wondering, will I ever be able to come out from under the cloud of judgment, suspicion, and accusation?
Yeah, this is to me, such a difficult topic, especially at this point in our life. And that's why it was so shocking to see those statistics again, even if they're just half true. I think maybe you can go and recover and maybe start over or even try to fix it. But now it is so incredibly difficult to maybe leave or make that decision to leave based on an affair and all that entails. I mean, how do you rebuild trust? I mean, I know there's not a 2-minute answer to that.
One of the first things, Silka, I'm looking for, and let's just say, it's the guy, but again, that's not always the case.
No.
The attitude that I'm looking for, and that I think she's looking for, but as a therapist, if I'm going to work with this couple, I want to see this attitude in this guy that seems to suggest I'll do whatever it takes. If that means, Raymond, I'm mowing your yard, I'll do it. But I want to see I'll do whatever it takes, and it's not just I'll say what you want to hear, but I'm looking for a genuine remorse and regret. I don't need to pile on the shame, but I am looking for, is this person minimizing this, or are they, it's not that, you're overreacting. I want to see that I'll do whatever it takes, because then they're teachable, because the lion's share, particularly early on in helping a spouse through betrayal trauma, is on that person who caused the hurt. Here's also one of the challenges, and this is going to sound like I'm contradicting myself. Usually in a relationship, if I'm hurting, my partner is the one who would support and encourage and console me. When my partner is the source and is the one who has hurt me, how do I get that comfort, that what I need from the person who hurt me? So, and again, and that's part of the therapist's job, is to walk the couple through that kind of irony and seeming contradiction. But I tell the guy, and again, or I'll tell the woman, there's going to need to be, right off the bat, three things that you're going to have to commit to: closure, boundaries, and radical transparency. Closure means all contact with the affair partner stopped.
Yeah.
And that you're committed to that. Secondly, boundaries means I'm putting the things in place that would make it at least very, very difficult to have contact with the affair partner. So you unfriend, you block numbers, email addresses, you do what's necessary. Now, I mean, one of the things we know is that, I mean, if someone wants to and they're not being honest with themselves, the therapist or their spouse, if they want to get around the boundaries, they'll find a way to do
Yeah.
it. They'll get a burner phone, they'll get a different email,
Yeah.
but I tell them it ultimately will be exposed again. And then the third part is a radical transparency. And because I say to guys, I mean, I realize that how do I prove what I'm not doing? Because if the
Mm-hmm.
fear is that you're still in contact with the affair partner, I mean, that's that's anyone's fear. Is this really over? And even if you're not having any contact with her, you particularly a woman is wondering, another woman had your heart. Does she still, even
Mm-hmm.
if there's no contact? And I realize it's hard to prove something you're not
Right.
doing. But, one of the few options, is the transparency with your electronics.
Meaning let that check their phone, or
Yeah,
allow
that
your
if
partner
that
to
if
check
yeah,
your phone.
if that again, if I'm willing to do whatever it takes, I'm serious about you needing my help. God, I can't just say, well, you're just going to need to trust me. And
Right.
I've heard of guys do that. That's a red flag
Right.
that he's expecting her to make the adjustment, and it's not about penalizing. I say to them, this isn't about penalizing you, not about punishing. It's if you're wanting to help her rebuild her trust, one of the ways you can do
Mm-hmm.
that is with transparency.
Right.
If you seem really possessive with your phone, that's a trigger. Even
Yeah.
if you're not doing anything,
Right.
you acting possessive creates
Mm-hmm.
doubt.
It's a horrible situation, and it just uproots your whole life. And I mean, I question if trust really ever can be rebuilt. I think it'll, yes, it can, I suppose, on some level, but I think it's always going to be different, at least from my perspective and from my experience. And the other part of this, I think, is, have you done this once, or have you done this twice or three times? We've all heard the once a cheater, always a cheater. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, my experience is, and it's just not accurate. Does the person demonstrate that attitude of remorse and I'll do whatever it takes?
Mm-hmm.
And here's this other part of it. Do they want to understand what was going on with me that happened? I can pledge, I can promise, my partner, that's not going to happen again. I don't want to feel like this. And, and there's this, this immediate pain I don't want to experience again. But I've said to guys, one of the reasons, yeah, your wife is wanting and needing to try to understand how did this happen? Because she knows if you don't really understand how it happened, how are you going to keep from happening again? And just pledging, I don't want to hurt you again. I don't want to. I don't want to feel this. But if I don't understand what legitimate need was I responding to in the wrong way and from the wrong person, how did I let this sequence play out? Because if I don't understand it, I don't know what to look for early to set some boundaries. And I think, because I've seen it, that an exposed affair can really kind of be like a heart attack. It can be a wake up call and clarify what you really want. I've had some couples who they would say you could not pay us enough to go through that again. And yet our marriage is in a healthier place today than it was before. Because there's sort of two stages of affair recovery. One is you're dealing with the big betrayal trauma. Then when that subsides, then the couple is able to do the work of how well as oh God, Esperel says, she asks couples, what do you want your second marriage to each other to be like?
Mm.
You could have have a marriage to someone else, but if you stay together, what would you like your second marriage to be like? And so when the couple in that second stage begins to ask themselves, how did we, and again, which does not remove primary responsibility, I want to make sure that, how did we leave our relationship vulnerable? And what do we want? What do we want to learn from this? And that's why I say to couples, my guess is that it's not going to be enough for you just to get over this and get back to where you were before this hit the fan or before it
Mhm.
started, because something inside you tells you that's not good enough. I don't want to just for us to go back to where we were before this happened.
Lots to think about. It's a deep, hurtful topic, as we said in the beginning. Unfortunately, something that many of us already have or will experience. What I would want to say, right or wrong, like what you described, if it's a first time thing, it happened, we're trying to understand what it is. I think you can work through that. I think if there's a pattern, I think you walk away. I
Yeah,
think.
and that's in the consideration of once a cheater, always a cheater. If there is evidence and an indication of this has occurred in previous relationships, this is not an isolated. The chances of being a repeat offender, just go up, because
Yeah.
then you're starting to question what is this person's capacity, not just their willingness, but their
Right.
capacity for fidelity, faithfulness, to not need the attention to either seek it or respond and not be able to resist. If there is going to be the rebuilding of trust, I only know one way to do it, and it's 7 words: consistency in the small things over time. I don't know of an alternative, because just time going by. People say time heals all wounds. No, it doesn't. There's nothing therapeutic about just time going by like a river. The reason that time, Soka, has a capacity for healing is it has a chance of updating our frame of reference. It has a chance of showing us that there's a new normal. And that second thing about small things, I tell guys, this is not the time for love bombing, because your wife right now, her greatest need is to feel safe. You make her feel safe and secure in the relationship, then you can do the work of making her feel special. So backing up the truck with gifts and Hallmark cards and flowers, consistency in the most ordinary, mundane day to day is what shows her that apparently this is what I can count on.
Yeah, and vice versa. We've talked a lot about the men being the offender. I totally recognize women do this too. So I do want to say that before we close. And I love the closing: consistency in small things over time. That's gold. That's what we need to remember. Raymond, thank you so much. Again, our
Oh,
time has
thank
gone
you.
by so fast. I will link to all of your information, to all of your books. You have such a wealth of information and knowledge when it comes to relationships and how to navigate that whole world. We really appreciate everything you do, and I look forward to our next conversation on Second Act TV.
Thank you, Soka.